Meet the liberation mechanics. What's a liberation mechanic? A liberation mechanic is somebody who's doing it their own way, and through doing it their own way is an original in the marketplace. And an original doesn't have any competition because the products come from inside at a deeper place, and it's unique. And that's what we're going to talk about today is liberation mechanic stories.
Mm,
Brian, you're a liberation mechanic. You always have been. And now you found your liberation mechanic zone.
indeed. And in our studies of Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys, this is a secret society thing. Um, each person has their own unique, authentic gift. And if I don't find that, man, I'm going to be serving somebody else's gift and vision. And I tried to copy. I tried to copy, great processes in the Navy and in medical sales, et cetera, et cetera. I had this experience with a business attorney, and he's like, "How do you make money?" And I said, "Well, I have coaching clients and I drive Uber." And he goes, "You're not successful then." And I was like, "You motherfucker! Like, you're one of 6,000 successful attorneys. You've had 5,999 other attorneys that figured it out for you. All you got to do is follow the cookie cutter program,
Right. Yeah.
And his unique genius is he started a digital magazine. So there's actually kind of a lot that I could have learned from him, but I was triggered, and so I had fuel in the fire instead of teach me. I can do that now.
Yes. And I think a good example for me of this was, let's see, we're in November. So it would have been earlier this year where a friend of mine was giving me a hard time about my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because he didn't understand what I was doing and he couldn't. So he was telling me basically I needed to go focus on wealthy, successful people who were at the high end of the market because I had a very advanced black diamond skiing approach to business development, entrepreneur structures, inner development, all of this stuff. And he said, "You're leaving money on the table, you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving money on the table." And the answer back to him was, "That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm creating something new." And he said, "You can't eat philosophy." And that led to my more money now approach right after that, and to not go to networking events anymore or hang out with people who have advice or opinions for me.
How liberating.
It was.
Well, I came from I have a military background, special operations guy, medical sales. I had zero experience in the military and expected to do some crazy, really high level things. And then also in medical sales, like I didn't sell copiers first. Like I went into managing Virginia and West Virginia in a medical sales territory. There were Bon Secours hospitals, HCA. I didn't know the land,
Mm,
and so I had to follow what other people said, or else I would have died, you know. And so like for a long time, that program was like, all right, obviously you're an expert. I don't know shit, so I'm going to do what you say.
yeah.
And that was great because I had great coaches. I knew how to cultivate wonderful mentors. And now when I look around, like, we're doing this thing in my car because my morning wasn't anything like I thought it was going to be. And I say that because when I look around my life on the map, there's no topo lines. There's no terrain features. The
Yeah.
map is a plain piece of paper. Nobody has been to where I and you have been before. There's
Yeah.
nobody to turn to but inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the important point of it is that's not true for everyone. And many people will be in different lanes that don't require them to do something totally original in terms of original creation. I do. And I always have since I was 5 years old. I have always parachuted behind enemy lines into new territories, new businesses with new kinds of products. in all kinds of crazy situations and succeeded, because that's who I am. Now, I know a lot of other people who aren't like that at all. However, the liberation mechanic approach is still important,
Very
because
much
if you
so.
don't find your unique approach and code to you, not copying you, not copying me, you're just another one of those.
As you're telling me this story, like I never parachuted behind enemy lines. I got to do some military free fall stuff, which
I
was
don't
really
mean
cool.
literally like the stuff you do.
Well, so where I'm going with my friend Jim, his call sign is Jim Avigita. He's this wise, very seasoned, very decorated Navy SEAL operator, and so he runs plant medicine journeys in Mexico, and he's an entrepreneur. He's like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, and he's like, give me your worst team, I'll get them running properly. And
Yeah.
so he's such an innovator inside other organizations, and he's a godsend. And he's taken the philosophy and what he's learned in his plant medicine journeys, and what his business MBA has taught him, and he's made something really cool that nobody else knows how to do.
I've watched so many people on social media who have become what I started thinking of as opinion projectors. And the opinion projector is the opposite of the liberation mechanic. The
We
opinion,
should talk about that.
well, I'm going to be specific.
I'm just using the opinion projector language. We should do this is very much a projection. So I'll just give you an example.
Oh, we should do this. Yes. So the
Yeah.
opinion, the opinion projector language, I hear right away when somebody says you or somebody says we. What they mean is, I know the way. I think I know the way. I know the way. And it has nothing to do with intent. Now, a good example is Justin Welsh. So Justin Welsh is a combination to me of opinion projector, liberation mechanic. So what I see from Justin Welsh is build your audience on LinkedIn or X or whatever, and then monetize it. And I'll show you how in my what's passive income to him course, which is a recorded course. And I did all that. And then I paid him for his time. And then I was in his community audience and income when he had it. And I'm like, no, this isn't working for me. Why am I doing this? Now, he didn't say, oh, this will work for you. So he didn't tell me like a Grant Cardone would or a Russell Brunson, do it my way. He didn't. But what he did is he put a promise out in the world for people who want out of corporate, want a side hustle, passive income, to work for themselves, spend more time with their family in a way that's not really true. It's just not true. It's a very small percentage that are going to make millions of dollars building an audience on social media, particularly now. Because when he did it, it was new. And he's also a brilliant marketer in a way that I don't want to be and am not.
Yeah, and there's still things that I learned from Jeremy Miner and NAPQ, stuff from my the other coaches and mastermind groups. Occasionally I use. And my question I have for you as I think about the continuum of like a starting entrepreneur versus somebody who's like already making impact in the world.
Yeah.
I think there might be a place in the beginning for the opinion projector. For someone who hasn't woken up yet and is like, I just want to do the safe thing. You're like, well, are you happy doing that? No. You should think about maybe starting your own thing, making your own art. And then eventually in this, it's like, I don't want your opinions anymore. Like I tried that. I did my apprenticeship and journeyman stuff, in medical sales and speaking and coaching in traditional ways. It's like, well, that doesn't work. Like, I wanted to be a breath instructor. So I got my master's certification in Wim Hof, and I was an ice bath hustler,
Ice bath hustler. That's a good
hustler.
That's
ice
a
bath,
good job
right?
category, job title. I'm an ice.
It
You
was
put
cool.
that up on LinkedIn. Ice bath hustler.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, right? It was a cool experience.
It's
But I learned that I have an energetic gift in that. Like I had the ability to see into these people's imaginations when they were in the ice bath. I knew what they were experiencing, like
mm,
sometimes better than they did. Like, all right, so like, what's this Reiki thing about? So I got my level 1 and level 2 Reiki. Everybody in the energy space has a Reiki certification.
yeah, it's
It's
easy
like
to get.
I don't mean any disrespect, but it is very much like paint by numbers. Here, do this, make this particular shape. This is what happens. Cool.
It's the energy world's version of how to succeed on LinkedIn.
100%. And I was like, all right, cool. This is the sheet music. I'm here to make some jazz, you know?
Ah,
And then I did the same thing with Tai Chi Kung. We've been practicing a practice for 3,300 years, and it's amazing. And it's like, why did we stop iterating that? Right? Well,
mm,
like somebody got a divine download, and then you've been repeating it for 3,300 years. What about yours?
yes.
And then that's how my gift started coming alive, because I started doing the sound and the energy and the Tai Chi Kung all together, and it's like, oh, I get to integrate seemingly dissimilar things and particle smash them together.
So the playbook I use for this and teach, and we do it in the More Money Now group, which we just finished, and that's Monday through Thursday, after Brian's Invincibility Dojo, which is right before, is I call the method notice, adjust, and calibrate. So I
Mm.
spent 2 years going through Russell Brunson's program. I did Todd Brown's program. I did Alex Hormozy's program and his offer book, and all of those things. And I could go on and on and on. I could say 20, 50 of those. But it's notice, adjust, and calibrate for me, because what I'm doing is I'm thinking about, what is this really? And it got me to the point now, a few years later, where I'm rewriting them. And I'm actually went into Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. I skipped .com secrets because it doesn't work at all. And he even admitted it. He says most people who do these funnels never get a result, and that's why he wrote Expert Secrets. It's similar to what happened with Eli Goldratt with Theory of Constraints. So I give Russell credit for noticing this doesn't work, because they don't know how to do it and can't. And when he did Expert Secrets, people came to the private mastermind that spent 50 grand with them. You know who was in the room? Layla and Alex Hermosi.
Wow.
They were in the room. I'm like, those are original thinkers.
Yeah.
So of course they succeeded, and I started reading. I'd already done the program, but I started
Well,
reading. Go
they had
ahead.
to figure it. They had to integrate it for themselves.
Yes,
Like, there's not a coach or process that's cookie cutter and will work out of the box. That's what I
correct.
found in my $100,000 investment, to be able to say that and share that with you. You know?
Yes, yes. And you don't have to pay 50 grand. If you're paying 50 grand, you've been hustled. Because nobody needs to do that. You don't need that level of, unless you want to hire somebody to do it for you. That's different. If you're going to hire, if you pay 50 grand for something, hire a service company to do it for you. Don't pay a coach 50 grand to be in a private group. It's ridiculous. So, so what I did, I put out chapter 1 on my Substack. Is I'm rewriting the entire book, Expert Secrets, and it's because it's not based on principles. It's based on his opinion, and it's presented as principles, but they're not. It's what worked for him, and it didn't work for me. But I learned from doing it how to get it my own way.
That's your notice, adjust, calibrate. And so for me, I applied that to the invincibility work. I've got the ability to knock people's fucking socks off. I can do that with breath. I can do that with energy, and I can do that with sound. It's
Yeah.
not useful, right?
No.
So the majority of people, there's exceptions. If I have 100 units that I can apply to the work that we're doing, they need 6 of those. And so what I was doing 120 units of that. Like, I was redlining, I turned the afterburner on, and I'm like, that was amazing, wasn't it? They're like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. Like, they're like, I'm excited that you're excited that something happened, but I didn't notice anything. And it
Yeah.
was creating so much turbulence because it was way too much.
Yeah.
So the idea of the Goldilocks, one of the hardest things I'm learning in coaching and facilitating is, what's just right.
Mhm.
Enough information to create a gap for them to fill in the gap. Enough information, fill in the gap, and grow. Not too little either, because it's like, this is fucking boring. But if I
Yeah.
overwhelm, now they're feeling shame of like, I'm an idiot, I'm never going to figure this out, and they shut down.
Well, it's worse than shutting down. So I'm in Russell Brunson's prime mover group on school because I want to see what he's doing now. And he's teaching these courses, and then he's got all his usual upsells and stuff. And I'm watching the people in the group, and I really like these people. They're fantastic. So he attracted a very good audience or crowd in his funnel of like, I don't know, there's like 6,000 people in that group or something. And I'm watching them tell themselves to keep trying harder. So they're doing this program and they're trying to help each other. Just keep doing it. Russell said this. Oh, you can do it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, the reason you're frustrated is it's not going to work for you because you're being told the way to do it. And every single one of you is different and needs your own way to figure it out.
Yes, and in my nutrition, biohacking, military athlete experiments, I noticed that in the vegan community. They're
Oh,
like, this raw diet isn't working. I don't feel good. I'm getting fat. They're like, you just
mm,
got to do it harder.
right.
Oh,
Do it
okay.
harder.
And they do that. They do that. And it's not for lack of discipline. It's not for lack of consistency. Like, they really, really do it. And for a portion of the population, turns out eating meat's like really good for us. That's what I found, at least.
Ah,
So I was never going to be successful as a vegan athlete. And the day I realized that, I was really good at the concept two rower. And I was very fast for not being a collegiate rower on the rowing machine. And I finished, and I'm like, I can't go faster than a minute 47. I can usually do a minute 33. I'm like, fuck this. This isn't working. It's the diet, you know.
uh-huh. Notice,
Anyway,
adjust, calibrate. Notice, adjust, calibrate. Notice, adjust, calibrate. So I've been following Alex Hormozy for a while now because I want to see what he's doing because he got popular. So he's the latest, middle school social media celebrity out there on business social media, and I like the guy. And the opinion projection is intense. And one of his big ones now is you know, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And the guy wears the same t-shirt every day so he can work harder. And I'm like, that is the opposite of what I want. It's the
yeah,
opposite, opposite, opposite. And I was there. And my
yeah,
part of my learning was don't do it like that.
yeah. I'm going to go back a second to the notice, adjust, calibrate. And there's a term in marksmanship. It's where the word dope comes from. And it's an
Oh,
acronym. It means data on previous engagements.
ah,
So a sniper will keep a log of every shot ever taken, the conditions, the bullet, elevation, those types of things. And they start to get to know their gun, and they get to know the round, and they get to know the conditions, right?
yeah.
So if they miss, uh, usually they'll make an adjustment to it. And what I'm noticing in this concept applied to business is initially there was a massive notice, adjust, calibrate. Business owners don't value energy work. They don't. So that was massive, right? And so I'm noticing the incremental shifts, and each incremental shift is smaller and smaller. And eventually I'm getting the best fit line to know that my thing is 3 inches of the last mile. It's
Yeah.
either the middle three or the last three. And when that's applied with 9 other experts, holy shit, these people have a board of directors.
Yeah.
And I can do so much more enhancing everyone else's efforts than I could on my own.
Without the Invincibility Dojo, it wouldn't have happened as quickly, if at all, for me to finish this whole project, the Entrepreneur Experience Campus. And I've been doing water method, secrets of the temple, energy work through Tai Chi, dojo stuff since I was in my late 20s. I have over 30 years experience in
Mhm.
energy work of the deep at Bruce Lee level energy work, not the martial arts necessarily at that level, but self-defense for sure. And I still, on my own, could not get there in a way I was able to get there coming to your thing every day.
And what I'm finding in this, there's more than this, but to keep it a simple model, there's the the monastery version where I seclude and I read the ancient text and I work with my sifu and I'm alone in that
Yeah,
lone monk journey.
that's
You know,
different.
and so I don't know anybody that has that space. I know a couple of people that spent a year or two in India with their yogis, and
Yeah,
that's their role. We get to do this out in the world,
yeah,
and like models of learning. I can read a book and get like 10% out of that, and a little more now because I can channel the author and have conversations with them. All the learning for me actually happens when the bullets start flying. Like my entrepreneurial journey didn't actually start. I left medical sales in 2018. My entrepreneurial journey didn't start until I ran out of money.
yeah. That's right.
Before that, it was a
That's
hobby.
really true. It was a
It was
hobby.
a hobby, and then it got real. And
Yeah,
I'd asked my dad for $2,000, and he says, "Fine, yeah, I'm happy to help you. Great, don't
yeah,
spend it yet. I'm going to figure this out." And 4 days later, I closed our first $20,000 coaching agreement. So I got the 20K or the 2K that I needed.
yeah,
And there's a big thing in this that I'm noticing is like uncertainty. So the client didn't enroll, the back office systems aren't working, a key member of the team leaves, like, holy shit, how are we going to do this?
yeah,
And then adjusting the war helmet forward, like, I am certain this just happened for my greatest good, because that's now the hermetic stressor for me to grow.
yeah. Back in the early 2000s, when I was running my distribution company, the retail industry was collapsing, and I was running like a madman just to keep pace. And I was also racing sailboats 4 days a week, and I was dating someone who was clinically insane, and I was pretty much addicted to her. So my life was nuts, and my best salesperson got mad at me and quit, and had the tightest relationship with our best client and vendor manufacturer we were working for. So my entire business was at risk, and I wasn't deep in the books because I don't like all the financial P&L stuff and the ratios and everything. And I remember sitting in my showroom at 10 o'clock at night, just feeling like I can't do this, or I don't want to do this. And then I did it. And within a month or two, I dug out.
Mhm.
And it was better because I'd shed a bunch of people that were making me crazy. And getting rid of those people because they left was a solution at that time to have a few more years of good income and profit.
I love it. And Larry, as you're telling me the story, I am in love with Matthew McConaughey's life philosophy.
Yeah.
Not as a way to copy it, but there's some valuable things in there. And the one that comes to mind is every red light turns green eventually.
Yeah.
And as he looks back on his life, it's like every turn eventually turned into a green light, you know? But it only makes sense looking back on it. It doesn't make sense in the moment. I can't see the next traffic light.
I think it makes sense once you understand the principles and how it works, even if you haven't had the results. For me now, it's easier because I know what's happening, whereas before it always worked, but I didn't understand what was happening and I was doing everything alone.
Mhm.
That was the difference. I did everything alone. I had some mentors though, but they didn't understand this kind of stuff you and I are talking about.
That's a huge concept, right? So I noticed like with COVID, people got to taste freedom, location, time, freedom, more time with their family. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going back. I'm not going to go back. Okay, cool. So I guess I'll become a solopreneur, start my own thing. I'm noticing most people really don't like being a solopreneur. It's fucking
No.
lonely and it's hard. And there's very few people in the regular society that understand how um, how entrepreneurs are and what the cost and why we would be crazy enough to try something like this. And I could not have gotten this far, Larry, without you.
Same.
Like I would have
Yeah.
got a job already. I'd be selling medical stuff for
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah. Well, I'm unemployable, so I wouldn't have been able to get a job. So I would have had to figure out something, but I would have gone back to my other business. I wouldn't have been able to stick it out with this thing for 5 years, and I would have gone back to my other business. I wouldn't have been able to finish. I'm convinced of that. This is the Justin Welsh, Dan Coe myth. So the one person company myth. You see it from Dan Coe, you see it from Justin Welsh. There's a whole bunch of other people who are copying them now because they pioneered a lot of
Yeah.
these things. But the solopreneur myth, and I know it's a myth, and my company last year was called Solopreneur Inc. And it's a myth. It doesn't work. Now, you always have the 1% that figure it out because usually I notice they're copywriters. That's the main, they're copywriters or marketers, or they have really good analytical, organizing, structural expertise, and they're
Yes.
just unique individuals, and it works for them. But for most people, it's going to fail. It's a bad model.
Well, it doesn't adhere to the principles in nature. So if I want to learn something, I'm going to look at something in nature to figure out, hey, what's the coherence? What's the synarchy? What's the perfect ordered system of a thriving ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that I'm in the jungle and I come across a gorilla. I'm fucking dead. Like me versus 800-pound gorilla, I can't compete. Let's stack the odds a little bit. So 5 humans versus 5 gorillas. Gorillas win every time. And the scales don't tip until there's 50 gorillas versus 50 humans that can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think the largest competitive advantage we have as humans is the ability to work together.
Yeah.
You can't do that as a solopreneur.
Well, so let's get into some terms. So I've created a $30 million high profit margin infrastructure as a solopreneur. I'm a solopreneur with a $30 million business infrastructure at a high profit margin with one VA who's more than a VA, who's got 3 kids, one with special needs, who's helping me. But I'm not operating like a solopreneur because I have a whole team of people around me that I'm not paying, but I have an
Right.
infrastructure they plug into to make money on their own. So there's a shared desire and they have their own vision and mutual interest. That's possible, but doing it as a solopreneur or then scaling the company with employees to me is not acceptable. I've tried those things and I've succeeded at building companies and stuff, virtual one and one with W-2 people, and gave them pension. We had a pension fund years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to do that again.
Right. Yeah, and I don't want to work alone either. It's not how I thrive. Like in partnership and cooperation, there's so much synergy there.
So we got 1 minute. I'll close this out. We do not have a cash register at the end of our funnel, folks. We have options. Yes, you can pay us if you want, but we also have an option where you can make money or create joint products with one of our founding members and make money without even paying us. It's all structured in a way where there is no cash register ringing at the end for us. And there are no secret inner circle, 50 grand a year mastermind private groups where the real stuff gets done.
Yeah. Think about this the other day, having 9 to 12 experts advising my business, paying $279 a month for some folks. Like it's insane. It's insane what's possible when we work together.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. I'll see you later today.
Cheers, Larry.